Hello to all you rad people out there from whatever rad time you're watching in whatever rad place. You know the drill. My name's Ryan.
And I'm David!
And that makes us R-A-D.
Rad!
And today you're about to have a very rad experience because we've got a very special guest for you today.
Absolutely, Ryan. You know, I gotta say, I'm very intrigued. You know, having alumni come back to school to present to students on our podcast, I gotta say, that's quite the treat right there, honestly. That is quite the treat.
I think for any teacher,
Actually,
to see your students grow up into adults, and to maintain contact with them and to watch their growth is like, it's kind of one of the most heartwarming experiences, to be honest. And this is a really big privilege, I think, and so I'm really excited today to present. Many of our viewers may recognize, although it's been a few years since he left our school, but we're very glad to welcome to the show today Daniel Salazar.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
No, believe me, it's a huge pleasure, and I've had the privilege to stay in contact with Daniel now over the past couple of years as he's begun his journey off into adulthood. And so, like I was saying before, I mean, it's really special for a teacher, when you get to watch somebody kind of grow up and mature and become their own person who develops. So I'm really glad for you to be on the show today. So I was trying to dig deep into my memory before the show, and I was thinking that if I remember correctly, you graduated in 2016.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. I still got it. Cool. So I don't know. Maybe you want to tell us, like, what have you done since? I mean, well, it's almost June, right? So that's almost 4 years ago exactly. So what's been your path since then? For those of us who maybe haven't seen you since then, and how'd you decide to take that path?
All right. So basically, pretty much I thought about it like all over my time at school, like studying medicine, which is what I'm doing right now. But after I graduated, I was like, hold on, there's gotta be something more. I gotta do something else. So I went right off to Spain, 6 months. I was there. I was working with a family member in a restaurant. So I learned how to be a barista, which is pretty cool. You got to learn something about everything. And I learned about a lot of things, the culture, the food. Man, food in Spain is amazing.
Woo! Caliente. Oh yeah, you bet.
And basically, I found out a lot of things about myself, and I kind of reassured that my goal was to help people. So I came back here and studied medicine.
Cool.
And well, pretty much since then, I've been, preparing myself to do that every day. And well, besides that, I also practiced photography for a long time, probably 2 or 3 years. I really liked it, but maybe just as a hobby, like not to live out of it or make some money. So that's basically what I've done, well, until today. Just pretty much study, and that's it.
You mentioned a really key thing. Ryan, I gotta ask, did you ever do a gap year by any chance, or no?
I did. Well, okay. I did, but I did mine much later. I did mine after, not after high school. I did it after university, really. I kind of went right into the university at first.
Daniela, I have to applaud you for what you did, because in many ways, and this could just be me, after university, post-university and everything, but I believe that sometimes we find our direction when we don't have when we aren't anywhere, right? Like, I have some friends who did a gap year after high school, and for whatever reason, they decided to wait 1 year, then do university. I mean, in the US, it's not so largely practiced. In Europe, it's quite largely practiced doing a gap year, but I find that really critical and very important in many ways, because I think you kind of finesse the direction that you want to go in, right? Like 18 is I mean, some decisions that you got to make at 18 upon graduating it's immense, but finessing that direction, you know, and not saying left or right, straight, a little bit to the left, it gives you that drive. And that sounds like what you might have, Danielle.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that like they have gone straight into college, and then 1 or 2 semesters after, they're like, hey, this is not my thing. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So what I thought is, if I want to do something, I want to be sure that it's my thing. I need to like think it straight, like give it some importance, because this is what I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. So is it gonna make me happy? Am I gonna be like whole? And that's basically what I did. I found out that my interest was to help, and what a better way to than to be a doctor.
No, fantastic. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I have to say that there's those moments that you need in life that you just need to cancel your schedule and find that direction, I think. And I find myself, I think the best time for students or even adults is that post graduating, whether that's university, whether that's high school. But I do find that it's important to finesse the direction during that time period. Absolutely. Like you did.
Yes,
But Ryan, you said you had an experience with a gap year as well. What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking about it as you guys were talking about it, and one of the things, of course, one of the things that I often bring up to students of mine is that in the U.S., it's very different, of course, than in Colombia, right? So, so one of the things is that oftentimes you enter into the university without sort of that clear direction, right? And that's I also really appreciate that about our system, about our higher education system, is that you don't have to commit to something immediately, and you don't lose any time or money really in kind of studying a variety of things. So it's interesting, like Daniel mentioned photography, and I took some black and white analog photography classes. I took a little bit of everything, you know, in the community college where I live. So it's funny because it's definitely not a gap year, but at the same time, like when I graduated from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to study. I really didn't. In fact, I remember when I took English 102 and I finished English 102, and then I said, well, that's the last English class I'll ever take. and then like a year later, I was an English major. So I don't know. It's funny how life works out like that. Like you don't really you don't end up doing always what you expect to do. But I guess my bigger gap was after I graduated from the university, and then I decided to take my little bike trip with my friend, and I experienced something similar in that, you know, obviously I graduated with a degree in teaching, so I was, you know, on that career path to be a teacher, but maybe not totally ready to jump in yet. And it was funny because, you know, I would be riding my bicycle every day. I would be sleeping in a tent. And a lot of people might think like, God, that sounds really cool, romantic. It sounds like, you know, like you're really living life. And it was funny because I found that every day that I was out, you know, just living life, I was actually thinking about like doing my career. Like I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like have my own classroom and be a teacher? And you know, it's the whole, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? If you're working, then you only can think about how cool it would be to not work. And if you're not working, then all you can think about is how cool it would be to work.
Dude, it's like the world we're living in right now. All the time, you're just asking for a break. You're just asking for some free time. And then The
I just want
universe
to hang out
gives
in
you
my
all
house.
of this free time, and you don't even know what the hell you can do with it.
No, that's completely true. The grass is, oh no, man, that's so real, honestly. It's like once you're in the experience, you want out of the experience. It's
Yes.
like some kind of conundrum. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's just a base of human reality is that you're never going to be totally content with whatever's happening in front of you. And you know, that's probably a good thing, I guess, right? I mean, otherwise you just accept everything and you'd be a slave. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's why we meditate, maybe to try and be a little bit more in contact with the now, right? To be accepting of the present
Yeah.
moment. Well, we try. I'm not gonna pretend to be perfect.
Yeah, naturally. Oh man.
So Danielle, one of the cool things that you mentioned was, again, you said you went to Spain, you traveled, you did working, you learned how, barista, which is, yeah, I totally agree. That's like, got to be one of the top skills in maybe the world, because
Oh yeah.
to prepare a good cup of coffee is a beautiful thing.
They sell coffee all over the world. You can get employed anywhere for that matter. Yeah.
But one of the things that well, I've always noted about you is that your English is really, really, high level. I'm wondering if during your time traveling, during your time studying, how has bilingualism maybe affected your life in any way?
I'm gonna be honest with you. So I love English. I basically love every single way English works. Language is just a pure thing. It's beautiful. Um, Thank you for saying my English is actually high level, and it's really helped me a lot, and it's opened a lot of doors, for me. Um, just from reading books in English and watching TV shows in English that you can't find in Spanish. That's a basic thing I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
able to do if I didn't have a good English level, like you just said.
Mm.
And when I'm abroad, like when I have visited Spain or the US, I was actually working in the US too, in an auto parts shop.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wouldn't be able to get that job if I didn't speak English, because I
Yeah.
actually had to talk to customers and people who, like, they're native. So if I don't speak fast, if I don't listen fast, if I'm not able to do that, well, I'm not getting the job and I'm not getting paid.
Right.
So, well, bilingualism just opens you doors everywhere, pretty much, because everywhere in the world, people speak English. It's everybody knows how to speak English everywhere in the world. So it's basically your second language.
Yeah.
So either you can go to France, Spain, the US, India, anywhere, somebody's going to speak English.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be someone in the world who speaks English.
Right.
Mm. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And I bet working in an auto parts store, you had to pick up on a lot of like a very specific vocabulary because
Yeah.
I certainly don't know the names of a lot of car parts and stuff. So I'm sure that was a
Yeah,
challenge.
you learn about bumpers and all that stuff. So, man, I mean, like I just said before, I've been all over the place. I've been here and there. I've been doing this stuff. I've been doing many things.
Mm.
Well, it's cool. It's cool to hear, a variety of experiences. I think that's one of the things that makes life so delicious.
So, Danielle, you're currently studying. Am I right in saying that as well?
Yes, I am. I'm cursing 7th semester of medicine.
Oh, 7th. Oh man, yeah, you're invested deep in it already then.
Yeah.
I had a couple of students, for example, who wanted to know, teacher, how does one become a doctor? And in all honesty, I have zero idea. So would you mind maybe explaining the steps to going through medical school? What did you take in order to where you are?
So, first and foremost, well, you gotta be sure you want to be a doctor, and you can watch like all kinds of situations and be able to react to them.
Yeah.
Then, basically you gotta study for like the test university like makes you take before you like actually getting in. And then, well, it's basically first semester is all biology, like molecular biology, like small things, Krebs cycle, cells, mitosis, meiosis, all that stuff. You actually get to see at school. It does work. You know, sometimes when you're at school, you wonder, huh, when am I going to use this in my whole life? Well, dude, you actually use it. It works. So pay attention, especially in chemistry. Me, personally, I was really bad at chemistry. I sucked. That was awful. I failed it like twice. I remember my teacher was called Omaira. It was really funny because I used to say all the time, dude, when am I going to use chemistry? Why do I need to see this? Why do I need to learn about this? Well, then comes medicine, molecular biology, chemistry, boom, hits you right in the face. You didn't learn, well, you got to learn now. So you just got to, like, take advantage of all the knowledge teachers give you at school because you will use it. And then we'll just basically, it starts evolving from the smallest part to the biggest part. So you got cell, tissue, organs, and then you just keep evolving until you basically know like how the body works completely. What else can I tell you about? You know, you basically gotta read a lot. You know, you gotta read all the time. You know, you gotta read about what I just said, molecular biology, about bones, about muscles, about chemistry. And then you just gotta start reading about what can make a human sick, which is a whole different universe. It's something massive. There's books and books and books about it. And, you know, to be a good doctor, you got to read a lot. You know, you have to, how can I say this? So it's all theory at first, but then comes hospitals. So they take you to the hospitals and you got to actually talk and interview patients. So like you got to correlate the clinic they present with your theory. That's the secret to be a good doctor. You know, you got to recognize the symptoms a patient has in order to know what is affecting him. And that's only learned by practicing with patients and like learning all the theory.
Huh.
It's interesting because I always kind of thought that like medicine was, you know, very just sort of scientifically based, kind of more, I don't know, maybe more what we would call like hard sciences. But it sounds like communication, reading comprehension, these things are pretty fundamental to a doctor, right?
Well,
I'm
applicable.
going to tell you something interesting, which is this. I also thought it was all science, but it turns out as soon as the patient walks in, you got to watch how he walks. You got to watch and hear how he talks. You got to analyze. It's like being a detective, you know? You got to see everything. Every little thing can give you the diagnosis you need. So it's not so scientific after all. You got to focus on a human being that's standing right in front of you and he's suffering from something. You got to find out what it is. So all these little things that compose the human being who's in front of you are clues you need to use to find your diagnosis.
You know, I like what you mentioned, but I've got to ask because I have a bit of a doctor phobia. I hope that's okay. That's nothing against you. It's just me. I'm a little bit odd. But I'm curious. Do doctors try and treat the cause or do they try and treat the symptoms? Because I've been convinced that they're always treating the symptoms so that I'll come visit them and say, oh, hello, Dr. Granger, how do you do again? But it's like, oh, dude, just get rid of the cause and then we're done with the symptoms and everything. as a doctor, which one does one take preference to, if you will? Obviously, maybe depending, but would you lean more towards one than the other?
So there's two types of medicine. So when you compare Colombia's medicine system, we treat symptoms. But when you compare us to like Cuba, they treat the cause, and that's called preventive medicine. Because if you prevent the disease, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have to treat any symptom at all, which is more effective and will save a lot of money and will save a lot of lives. But what's the deal here? It doesn't work like that. Why? Because all the people involved in high high politic charges, they all want to take the money that comes into health. So the system is going to stay the same until, well, somebody actually comes and says, hey, this is not working.
Oh, that's an interesting.
So speaking of systems and health systems, I mean, obviously, we're in a huge moment about. I mean, this is what we're talking, right? I mean, this is the life that we're living right now. So I know because we've been talking a bit recently. I know that you've been pretty directly involved in the whole response to COVID, and so maybe if you wanted to tell us just a little bit about that, and then like how do you think, without scaring us or anything, but I mean, how do you think Colombia is doing in terms of preventing and reacting to this whole situation?
So the first thing I need to tell you is do not be afraid. Don't be scared.
Okay.
All right? That's the first thing. That's key. You don't have to be scared. Now, everybody's talking about COVID these days, and there's a lot of information coming from everywhere that just hits you from all directions. And you're just like, oh my God, what can I believe in? Okay? So don't panic. COVID, like everybody already might know, it's a virus which affects your respiratory system, but it's not so lethal unless you have like other comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, asthma, or chronic pulmonary obstruction, which, can lead to complications when you have COVID, okay? That's the difficult part. Now, what is the fear of all the people involved in the health system? Well, if everybody gets sick at the same time, we won't be able to treat them all. So what is basically our system is implementing? So there was this, I don't know how to say this, like a line. Yeah. So you could call and tell like a symptom to your doctor, which I took a course. It was dictated by the World Health Organization about how to diagnose COVID and when should you visit the emergency room. So that's the key. You gotta know when do you have to go, because if you really don't have to visit emergency room, you should really stay home, like play it safe. Okay? Why? Because first, people who are at the ER, they really are like in a bad situation. So if you do not have coronavirus and you go there, well, you might as well get it. So you might actually just stay home,
Right.
stay safe, and hope it all goes away. But if you enter in a respiratory distress, like you can't breathe, your fever's too high, these key symptoms might tell you can go visit the ER maybe. So that's basically how we difference patients. And that's basically what the line is working for. So you call, you tell them what you feel. If they consider you have to visit the emergency room, they'll just tell you, okay, you can now like visit your nearest hospital, or you can stay home and isolate yourself from your family and all the people who are around you who you want to protect, and see how it goes. If in 14 days you're good, well, we can actually so the system is going to people's places to do the tests
Hmm.
in order for the system to not
Mhm.
crash.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I've got to ask actually, there's this number that they're using in the UK to determine how they should proceed with guidelines on a week-to-week basis. Now, it's called R. And if that R is less than 1, it means, let's say, 5 people get infected. It means that, okay, 5 people get infected. That means then that 3 people will get infected, and those 3 people will infect 1 person. But if that R number is greater than 1, it's saying if 5 people get infected, then 10 people can become infected, then 10 people can make it to 30, et cetera, et cetera. As you know, what you're studying at the moment, what is your idea on that policy, on following one number, R, on determining what policy should be enacted? Do you think
I
that's a
don't think
smart
I don't
move?
think that's accurate. I don't think that's accurate. But it actually makes sense because when R comes in contact with another 3 people, they
Yeah.
might be infected as well. So that might be why they are using it. But I personally don't think it's accurate.
No, I don't think so either. I agree. Yeah.
But is that the model that Colombia is using, or
No,
how is that?
no, it's not. Look, so
European countries are doing that at the moment, using R as a measurement. Yeah.
so what I've seen Colombia is doing. So if somebody gets infected, they ask that person, who have you been in contact for the last 14 days? And then they go and test all the people this guy has been in contact with to see if they are positive as well. Excuse me for a second. I'm sorry. Right. So I don't think Colombia has been like the best country to fight against this crisis, but I think we're doing okay. With the things we have and the knowledge we have and, the money we have, I think we're handling things all right. We're not perfect, but we're not so bad. And quarantine has actually helped to reduce a bit, the growing number of cases, which,
Hmm.
it's obvious people, not everybody can stay home and not everybody's going to stay like safe. So eventually people will get sick, but the number will definitely be greater if we stay home, you know?
Right.
So it's been working. It's been working. Uh, you know, the case numbers haven't increased so fast like in other countries like Italy, Spain.
Hmm.
So it's been working. We're not the best, but we're not the worst. We're just doing all right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because I don't really leave like my community. I mean, I've left a couple of times to go grocery shopping
Yeah.
and things like that. But I mean, so it's hard for me because sometimes I hear from other people like, "Oh yeah, if you go to El Centro, it looks like a normal day," and it's hard to believe because just being around here or like from here to the grocery store, I don't usually see anybody at all. I mean, I see very few people out in the streets. It seems like the quarantine thing is going well and being generally followed, but I don't know. I get other perceptions from other people, and but anyway, as far as the numbers go for people who are infected, do you feel like it's been an effective strategy and it's working?
It's working. It is
Oh,
indeed.
that's good.
I've actually had to visit, Pereira's center, and
Mm-hmm.
it's crowded, but it's not the same as before. Like you see people, but you don't
Right.
see that many people like out there.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is, let's make an example. So you basically live off a shop you have in El Centro, all right? And if you don't open it and you don't work, then you don't have money to buy groceries and eat.
Right.
What would you do? open it or stay home and starve.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's no choice
I
for
would open it. Definitely.
yeah,
I
for a
wouldn't hesitate.
significant amount of people, right? Yeah.
Just
So
take
that's the situation a lot of people have to, face every day. For example,
Right.
these guys around my community, there's this a truck, and they sell all these types of food, like mazorcas, tomatoes, all those things that they usually sold in El Centro, but nobody's going there to buy. So what are they doing? They have to go out. They have to buy. They have to provide for their families.
Mm-hmm.
They can't stay home.
Right.
So what I think is, if the quarantine gets like really, really long, now the country won't hold because we don't have a stable economy. People will go out to streets and things will get really bad if it keeps going like this.
Yeah.
So we gotta do what we're doing. Reopen like certain fields slowly, but not close it all like at the same time, because if we do that, eventually people's gonna go out and things are gonna get bad, like really nasty.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. It's funny the economic impact that you're talking about. On we were talking about a micro scale within Colombia, but on a global scale, honestly, I think next year's economy is going to be rewritten completely in terms of how it is at the moment. I think from what I've read, they're talking about how the price of airline tickets is never going to go back to how it was, never. And it's funny because actually I do believe that. I don't see this whole aspect of, traveling, tourism as, some countries when they say, what's your number one income for your economy? They say tourism. And I'm curious what happens to some countries when they realize, ooh, now we got to look for a different source, because tourism, like Spain, their number one influence for their economy is tourism. It's not going to be like that moving forward. They're going to have to find supplemental ways to supplement the economy. So it's an interesting topic that you bring in there. Yeah, definitely.
What I think is economy will have to reinvent itself.
Oh, yeah.
Things are going to definitely change after this. And if we don't change, then this really didn't work. This didn't really help us for anything. The world has to change, man. For example, like we're talking about, like microeconomies here, we got to support local after everything passes.
Mm-hmm.
I assure you, and I'm sorry, Ryan, I know you're from the U.S., but I'm never going to buy a U.S. product again. I'm going to support my local friends. Like, we got to come out of this together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's I don't know. It's going to be a challenge for sure.
It will be.
But I guess we'll all have to work together a lot. Hopefully, it's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Danielle, I was wondering, it's been now many years since you've graduated. I know that many people have lots of fond memories from the time that they're in school, and I think it's another case of grass always being greener, right? Because when you're in school, the only thing that you think about is graduating, right? You're gonna get out of here. But I know that it doesn't even matter which university you go to. No university campus is quite as beautiful as San Miguel's campus. You don't have that much access to, guaduales and stuff like that. So do you ever get nostalgic for being at Liceo Taller San Miguel?
Dude, all the time. All the time. I actually sometimes dream I'm back at school. Just like you were saying.
Some people call that a nightmare, but
Oh, it's not. You were saying, like, the whole time you're in school, you're just like, oh God, when am I going to leave? I'm bored. I want to get out. And then when you actually get out of school and graduate, you're like, oh God, I want to go back to school. That was so amazing. Let's start with your classmates. You won't ever find more unique classmates in college than the ones you had in school.
Right.
ever. And the trust the trust you get with your group director, it doesn't come back. So if students are going to see this, I'm going to tell you this, and you got to listen carefully. Please just take advantage of your time at school. Make the most out of it. I personally made the most out of it. I was all the time in La Cañada. All the time. I was getting caught all the time. I was getting this things written by Jay. You remember Mr. Cross. You remember him. So I was all the time in his office. I sold whole passes. I did a lot of things. And I really made
whose hall pass did you steal?
I'm gonna say this, but now that I graduated, you can't really do much. But I stole your whole pass.
Oh man, that's good.
It actually worked for me. I actually kept it in my backpack, and every time a teacher stopped me, I was like, "Hey, I got my whole pass. What can you do?"
All right, students, if you're listening, just remember that won't work anymore. We have standardized hall passes. No, you can't do that.
No.
Oh man, I miss school every single day. I wish there was a time machine and I could just go back to our lunch, to everything, man. I mean, school is awesome, and specifically LTSM. There's this whole space you can use. There's a library. You can read all the books. I'm going to show you. I actually have a book from the library here.
Great. All right, let's hope they don't catch this glimpse.
This won't be called a podcast. It'll be called a pirate cast.
Around the World in 80 Days. Look, it says Liceo Taller San Miguel. And it's right here, sitting in my library. That's how much I appreciate school.
You know what, Daniel?
Hey, you got the diploma, right? So you can't be touched.
I myself took a few books from high school as well. If I have to confess, I will confess now. And you know what? I did it for memorabilia as well. It was like, you know what? I want something to remember. And it was like, well, books. That's what happened in school. It was books after books after books. That's memorabilia right there if you need it. No, but
I just showed you one. I got like 2 or 3 back there. I'm not kidding, though. I'm not kidding. I have them right there. I want to show them because, something might happen.
Yeah.
No, but I actually had to pay for all the books I didn't return when I graduated.
Sure, of course.
Instead of returning them, I had to pay for them. But whatever. Yeah. You could actually trade a book of yours, too. And that's what I did. I actually paid for them, so I didn't steal them.
No. That's good. It's funny because even I sometimes think about going back to high school, and find that's a decade ago for me. But it's like, oh man, if I went back to high school, the things I knew now, the things I could have done, and it's
yes, totally.
Don't live with that regret. If you're still watching this, to the fellow students, don't live with that regret. Go out every day, seize the day right there, right? What's that old
everything you can.
Just don't steal our books.
Just don't steal books and whole passes. Don't take my example. But if you do want to do it, it's up to you guys.
We will keep that in mind. That's fantastic. Thank you, Danielle.
Well, any last words? Any final message that you want to give to maybe the class of 2020, your old teachers or friends who might be watching? Any final message?
If any of my friends gets to watch this, I miss you all. I really do. To all my teachers, my fellow teachers, I want to thank you all, because I wouldn't really be the person I am today without you guys, especially you, Mr. Cross. I wouldn't really have my English level without you, and you know it. We talked about it several times. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. And well, basically, I just miss school, and I love school, and I hope you guys who are still in school love it as much as I did, and I still do. And you you have to appreciate everything school gives you, especially LTSM. You know, it actually, when they say they're more than a school, that they're a family, they actually are. You will never, ever, ever feel more at home than you feel inside LTSM.
That's
Wow,
good.
man.
Really nice, man. Really nice.
I think those are some beautiful words to finish on there.
Thank you, man.
Man, it's been a real pleasure.
Likewise,
It's
man. Likewise. Thank you all.
I've also expressed to you, it's a beautiful thing to watch your students grow up and become adults who are contributing to our world and trying to make it a better place. So, man, we feel we're all, I think we're all, I speak for the whole school, we're all very proud of you. We're proud of our graduates, and man, we're really proud of you doing great things. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, man. Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ryan.
Namaste.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, if there's any other LTSM grads out there who think maybe they'd like, yeah, it could be. Or current students who are out there and who would like to take the podcast challenge. Remember, this is the Ryan
And David!
RAD Rad podcast.
People!
Leave us your comments down below, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Ciao, ciao, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
I'm out.